All right, everyone, welcome to practice. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. Um, Welcome to those who are new to practice. This is Medicine Buddha. This is going to be a guided practice, and you don't need anything except for a really great imagination and a willingness to hear me go off on rants about the Matrix. But to be fair, I haven't mentioned the Matrix in probably 2 months. So maybe not, anything about the Matrix. Um, so feel free to introduce yourself in the space, in the chat, um, as well. I just like to know who's in. And maybe in about a minute or so, we can do prayer requests as well. So just any prayer requests for anything or anyone um, as well. So it's good to see everyone coming into the space. Happy May or whatever. Tonight, I'm going to introduce a third mantra. And it's not even a mantra that I made up. So it's like win-win. However, you know, it is a mantra from a completely different tradition. Not completely different, um, but it is a mantra associated with healing. So I'll get into that in just a second. Let people continue to arrive into the room. Let's see what else is happening. Any questions? Just a reminder, it goes into ask a question to the ask a question tab at the bottom. If there are any questions that some of you may need answered before we do practice, you can go ahead and post those now as well. If you can't possibly practice without knowing the answer to this, or at least the version of an answer that I'm going to give. So I'm just offering incense as well. Just some scent offering. Let's see. There was something that I was going to actually mention. It's literally been on my mind most part of the day at least. And now it's just like completely gone. And I don't remember what it was. Something I was going to mention. Just don't remember what it was anymore. I think it was something about activism. It'll come to me at some point. All right, yeah, just go ahead and start putting up all the prayer requests as well. And I did find a little picture of medicine. There's so much light, you can't probably see. I hold it at an angle like this. Hold it closer now, you can't see it. It's a little card of medicine Buddha that I found doing some cleaning. But you can find images of medicine Buddha online as well. So actually, I want to get into the new mantra today. So as I've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, I've been using a mantra, kind of a Vedic Hindu mantra, in my practice for probably almost 2 years now. about a year and a half, I would say. And and this mantra um, is a mantra of the manifestation of the mother, that's called, who is called Durga. So this is a Durga mantra. It's Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Um, and so this particular mantra, coming out of Durga's worship, is very much related into the experience of healing. And so I've been using it in my practice and also in um, some of my ceremonies as well, and it is quite powerful. So I got a transmission from my Swami, and now I feel empowered to offer um, the mantra for us. So the mantra, the energy that I want to open up with this mantra is very calming, settling, like deeply nourishing experience of healing energy. Um, and I want to do this. So this will be the third. So we have a mantra that opens practice whenever I remember to chant it. So we have that mantra. We always do um, Medicine Buddha's main mantra, and Durga's mantra we'll do at the very end. Um, so like at the very end, like we usually go through the visualization, which really it's moving through breath, imagining something, prayer requests and so forth. And then we usually let all of that go. Um, in Vajrayana, we call that completion. We complete it by dissolving the visualization. And then at that dissolution is when we'll do Durga's mantra and Durga. And so again, the energy is just kind of settling. And in the visualization that I want us to do is just a very simple, calming visualization where we imagine blue light kind of radiating from our heart centers. Of course, the heart center or the heart chakra is green in color, you know, um, but we can still imagine radiating blue. Blue, again, like settling, like a gentle, like radiation of blue light from the heart center. Um, the calming effect of water, the ocean or the sea. That's kind of what I'm going for here. And I mean, it's better, of course, if we did mantras together, we could hear each other, or if we're in the same space. But if you want maybe to be in the same space with me chanting mantras, there are two retreats on the books. One up in New Hampshire at Wonderwell Retreat Center, uh, and that's in August. So you can go to Wonderwell or naturaldharmafellowship.org or naturaldharma.org is the website to maybe see about attending that retreat. I have another retreat that's booked for Southern Dharma in outside of Asheville, North Carolina. That's going to be in December. So you can take a look at that. And there will probably be at least two more in-person events that you all can join me in at as we prepare. We're trying to like figure out how to be together in person again. And I'm sure if you pray really, really hard for those of us here on this land um, that we call Atlanta, that there may be some in-person um, events happening. So we just kind of have to pray. We have to kind of click our ruby heels together, and wish for an in-person event. I have to do the same thing. I have to click my heels together, as well, and say there's nothing like an in-person event. you know, even though it's quite convenient just to sit in front of the camera and talk and do Dharma. Um, so in any case, so all of those two opportunities are coming up as well, right? Um, so Dum Dure Namaha. Um, and this is a very, again, so medicine boot, I can get it kind of revved up. I can just kind of just buzz right through that. But with Dura's mantras, it's gonna be just a really, I feel like it's just a pulsating, slow, kind of deep settling. Like Dum Duraye Namaha. Dum Duraye Namaha. Doom Dogaye. That's incredible. I didn't even tell anyone the mantra, and there it is, right there. Go team. So Doom Dogaye Nama. That's actually a little too fast. It's Doom Dogaye Nama. Doom Dogaye Nama. Doom Dogaye Nama. Dum Duraye Namaha. 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 So I actually have been chanting Buddha's mantra way more than I've been chanting medicine Buddha's mantra, particularly in times where I've been really, um, just not well, with health issues. Like this has been the mantra that I've been actually working with more again. So, Durga is it's identified as being one of the most powerful um, manifestations of the mother. Now, in Buddhist Tantra, we get into dualities around peaceful and wrathful, which is a huge thing. Um, I tend to kind of practice from the wrathful side of things, and wrath means, in this context, just this really intense compassion, right? So wrath is like the kind of compassion that's so precise that it feels aggressive. That's what we mean by wrath in Tantra, in Buddhist Tantra. Like it's so on point, right? That it just feels like miserable, you know, because it cuts through ego, it cuts through aversion, and gets to a point, and our ego says, well, we're not ready for this, whatever it may be. Um, but it happens, right? And wrath just doesn't happen, you know, wrath isn't something that like we can just say, oh, I'm going to be wrathful right now. It just doesn't work like that. Wrath is the expression of deep, deep clarity, like precise clarity. Like that's where wrath comes from. That's the root of wrath: precise clarity, precise wisdom. That everything is revealed very clearly. You know, um, someone who is expressing wrath towards someone else. There's a fine line between wrath and wanting to hurt someone or just wanting to perform, you know, one's authority over you. Now, I've been in both situations as a um, recipient of wrath, often from my group teacher, Noah Rinpoche, who used wrath very skillfully with me. Yeah, and it did hurt. But it was what needed to be said in the moment, and it created a lot of openness and spaciousness, and it helped me to see things about myself that I needed to work on in order to be a better practitioner. Now, I've also been a recipient of wrath that didn't work, you know, and from a teacher, and not my teacher, but a teacher that I was, in interaction with. And that experience of wrath did not work well. It worked so well that I am no longer interested in being in any relationship with this teacher anymore. That's how well it worked. It worked as a repellent to create a boundary. I laugh about it now, but I was quite pissed off when it went down. And I was like, oh, like this is when wrath just doesn't work, and when it actually creates trauma. Actually, it created trauma for me that it took a little bit. It took a couple of years to work through. Actually, I mean, this is the reality of it. Um, Buddha Dharma is quite well. Buddhist Tantra, it's quite risky. There's a lot that can happen if practice is not held skillfully enough. Or when you just have teachers who are running around thinking they're realized and just doing all kinds of shit that's actually just creating much more harm and violence. Um, but anyway, getting back to the point here, in terms of deities, like when you get into like more the Hindu side, I use Hindu very loosely. Um, it's that is not always this concern of focus around wrathful and peaceful and deities. This relates to Durga because Durga is just everything. She is an expression of everything. In the story, she emerged. She was created. She was summoned. She was like birthed because she was birthed because there was in this mythology there was a very powerful demon creating a lot of havoc in the world, and a lot of the gods, the deities, were at a loss to stop this demon. And so they called into being this really powerful expression of the mother. And each of these deities gave Durga, when she was created, a weapon. So when you see pictures, iconography of Durga, she's usually has about 8 arms, 6 or 8 arms, and each arm she's holding a kind of a weapon. Um, and of course, these weapons symbolize conquering, obscurations, or 10 arms. Yes, 10 arms. Um, Conquering obscurations, um, obstacles. Um, so it's really in this case, it's not so important that we have like a huge, intense link to Durga because I can offer that link for you. So, and this is how all this goes really like as a practitioner, you're connecting to these very powerful, intelligent energies. And this goes across many cultures, particularly cultures that come from or have had histories of magic. I would say magic. Um, we there are people who train to embody, hold, but not to control, not not necessarily to control. And that's my thing. I don't say control, but I often say work with, embody, contain, channel, right? Even though we think about magic, we think about controlling phenomena, right? But this is about learning how to hold different kinds and qualities of energy and different intensities of energy. Um, and so of course, I've been able to do that, particularly with Derek, particularly with a lot of deities. Um, I would say of one of my talents is just talking to deities, which is another way of saying that I'm really interested in developing relationships to different expressions of energy, which is the same thing. Like talking to deities, relating to energy is we're talking about, for me, very similar things, you know. Um, like learning to, and of course, we've been doing this with medicine Buddha, right? Like deepening capacity to work with prana, life force energy, or shakti, or working with or kundalini, which is shakti rising in the body, right? So like learning to experience these energies, right? To experience these energies is also to experience this very fundamental part, the expression of who we are, like our energy bodies. Our of Adriana, we say subtle energy, but I just say energy, our energy bodies. You know, that everything is energy, even our consciousness is energy that's intelligent, energy aware of itself. Um, which is all really exciting to me, actually. Um, and this is what all the practices that we're doing is really training us to be in relationship to different kinds of energy, right? And to be in line with energies that are just completely awake energies that know itself or themselves, like energies that are aware, right? Um, Durga and medicine Buddha arise out of the same intelligent energy. Um, this intelligent consciousness, they arise out of emptiness themselves, and we, also a part of this too is understanding, as we talked about before, is that it's not just these kinds of wisdom deities, really strong conscious energies that are rising as deities. It's not just them that we're working with. We're working with what I call their retinues. And a retinue is all these other kinds of energies, or another way of saying all the worldly deities and other kinds of beings who have allied themselves with a particular enlightened or awakened energy, because they're training also to awaken in the same way this energy has awakened. Um, and so when we practice, again, with Medicine Buddha, we're also practicing with countless other beings who are working to awaken, who are also embodying healing, right? When we talk about Durga, it's the same thing. We're working with her retinue of, of other beings and energies that are also moving toward awakening as well. So when we pray to Durga, we're also beginning to pray to worldly deities. In the same way, when we pray to Medicine Buddha, we begin to pray to other worldly deities, including worldly deities connected to our ancestors, deities connected to the land that we're living on, deities connected to other practices that we may have been doing in the past, or other practices that we've done in past lifetimes. When we make a connection to a deity in one lifetime, it doesn't disappear. The next lifetime, you maintain these connections. That's why it's so easy for many of you to come into Medicine Buddha. That's why it's easy for many of you, to come into Durga um, as well, because you've been practicing with these energies, these beings, or these entities, or whatever you want to call them in your practice for a while. Um, so when I do, and there, and to say there are certain worldly deities that I just don't get along with, and that's as worldly. That's a very, that's as worldly as it sounds. Like I literally, there are deities that I just like. We don't like each other. Like it's literally, I can feel that, you know, um, as well. So you deal with that, and that's the consequence of worldly deities. They're still attached to ego, right? So you have to be careful, right? If you don't, you have to be careful if you're vulnerable, right? And this is why we have traditions of deity practices across many spiritual paths. And these, I'm not just talking about good deities, talking about not so good deities, or the really ambiguous ones as well, which is another class of deities where it's just like, you know, they may be helpful today, tomorrow they may not be so helpful. you know? Because just like us, every day is different, or things change from moment to moment, and sometimes they just don't want to help you out. Other days they do. Of course, that's different from the extreme deities, where on one hand you have the deities who are just committed to helping, to getting people free, to doing whatever they can to be a benefit. In the other extreme, there are beings like demons, for instance. Not, I don't want to open up that can of worms. I'll just say this, like, beings, forces who are just committed to harm, you know, to disruption, whatever, right? Um, the field of these deities is quite vast, it's quite limitless. And again, this is why the seven homecomings practice is really important for us to take seriously if you're doing that practice, because it is a magic that's building protection for you. Like it's training you to call, it's training you to one, ask for what you need, to intentionally surround yourself with love, white light, whatever, however you want to phrase that for yourself, right? But building barriers around you and others that actually protect you and protect your space. Right? You should never do, I mean, this is built into Buddhist Tantra as well, into Vajrayana. Like all this is built in. Like this is a complete system, right? But you shouldn't start practice um, without strong intentions, without a clear intention, specifically a clear intention to be of benefit, because that magic just slides down the slope when you're not clear about intention. I mean, it slides down the slope towards something harmful. That's what I mean. Like it doesn't get weaker. It can get weaker with a weaker intention, but if the intention isn't clear and solid and based on really trying to help yourself and help others be well and free, then it just opens up the space, the practice, the ritual for any other number of factors that can come in. Um, so strong intention, asking for support, asking for guidance. Um, as we talked about a couple of months ago, choosing light, right? Choosing the lights. Um, and if you don't do anything else, like I live, all this sounds really like basic, and I know, you know, it sounds really basic and common sense, maybe for some of us, but it actually, once I started taking a lot of this seriously, I really realized that I actually had to get clearer. I just couldn't just assume that everything that I was doing was about the benefit, you know. So I had to really start learning how to choose uh, the light, or choose clarity, or choose love, choose compassion. In my practice, I just say light, which is wisdom, right? Symbolizes wisdom. But I choose the light because it's so easy to slide into the darkness of things. You think you're helping, you think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you're really just actually just creating more chaos for yourself and for others. Like you have to choose the light. Every day you wake up, you say, I am choosing a light today. Like I'm choosing clarity, I'm choosing compassion, choosing love. I am not going to choose to be petty. I'm not going to choose to be super dramatic. I'm not going to choose revenge, you know. I'm going to choose the light, um, because this is the nature of spiritual warfare, is that you have to get clear about what side of this you're on. And, you know, and I know that we're supposed to be non-dual and non-binary, um, and we can't get there unless you're choosing a wisdom. Like wisdom is the only door into the exhaustion of dualism, of binaryism. You know, and in Tantra, in particular Tantra, and Tantra, and when I say Tantra, I mean I'm actually talking about not just Buddhist Tantra or Southeast Asian practice, but I'm talking about indigenous magic practice in general. I just, in my mind, all of this is Tantra. Um, when you're engaging in Tantra, maybe some of the practices do look kind of dark. Like, I get that, you know. Um, but that's part of the skillfulness of what we're working with right now, is that, like, something doesn't have to look like the light for it to be the light. And this brings me actually back to wrathful beings. Actually, it actually brings me to Kali as well. I have a big Kali. I actually have a couple of Kali things. I have a Kali painting. I have a Kali statue. I have a big like wall hanging of Kali, which is very detailed. And Kali is just like, forearms, severed heads, blood everywhere, which is kind of tame for wrathful depictions in Tantra. Um, but looking at those images, you're like, how can this possibly be on the side of light? Because this image is, on one hand, a symbol related to the ways in which we have to be in relationship to, well, ego. You know, like you have to. There's a force that we generate to confront the intensity of ego, or the intensity of disbelief in an autonomous self. Like you have to get, like there's, and you can't be passive to dissolve fixation to ego. You have to, there's a lot of energy that we're throwing at. So when you see wrathful pictures, which is very graphic, wrathful deity pictures, that's what's being depicted. It's warfare against the violence of intense self-identification, right? But also knowing that the point of this isn't to erase the ego. The point of this is to understand the illusion of ego. And when you understand the illusion of ego, then you have agency as to how you can be in relationship to it. Right now, many of us don't have agency in terms of our ego. Like we're just habitually fixated, in and around the sense of self, right? But what we're trying to get to again is the agency of choosing how we want to be in a relationship to the sense of self that's founded on realizing the nature of ego, right? Which is not always, I would say, when I say Tantra, I don't believe that this is what's happening across all of Tantra. Even the light of Tantra, because there is a shadow side of Tantra. Um, there's a lot, there are people, beings who are just really like using Tantra. It's like, ooh, another movie reference. It's like, Star Wars, right? I think the Jedi's are a really good way to think about this. It's like there's the light side of the force, there's the dark side of the force, and there's also this middle ground in the force as well, which is also really tricky and slippery. Um, so choosing light, coming back to the light, right? Situating myself in the light. Once you do that, you're able to begin to discern the skillfulness of tantric practices, right? I know some of you do cha. Cha is really quite intense. There are a lot of practices that are not taught to lay people, um, that I was trained in, but I can't. It's like I wouldn't teach them really, to you all, right? Because it's a different kind of magic that takes a different level uh, of skillfulness and training, that we just can't roll out, and just do. Um, but you know, with tantra, like we choose the light of tantra, and then that creates this capacity to discern who and what is really working for the benefit of beings. And we read all these stories and Vajrayana history, particularly Tibetan Vajrayana history, about you know um, like beings like Tara, for instance, or Medicine Buddha appearing as something like grotesque or evil or like menacing, right? Doing that in a skillful way to encourage people to wake up, right? So it's hard to understand how that happens if you're not really situated within this devotion to the light. Like you develop an intuition that begins to like feel what's happening, and why people or beings are doing what they're doing. Like you can feel that, and you feel intention. You know? Like I said, I've told some of these stories before in the past, but I've definitely met people who were like really good people, like really great people, nice, kind, who were really practicing, who thought they were really practicing, like on the light side of magic, but who were actually just quite actually honestly opening themselves up to like the dark side of the force. Um, and of course, my golden rule, I'll just share this with you. I probably already said that stay away from Ouija boards. This is like you can't, like, you cannot bring a Ouija board around me. I will like flip out. That's like the fastest way to get into trouble, with beings is to pull out a Ouija board. Like, don't call me when you open something up and can't put it back. Don't do that. You have to learn your lesson. you know. So no one, no Ouija boards, no Ouija boards, none of that. Um, that's really just like my pet peeve as well. Um, Also, my other pet peeve is like people blasting music out of the cars that I don't want to listen to. Now, I'm not saying that like I don't ever want to listen to people blasting music. It has to be music that I like. So that's a pet peeve. Like you need to be blasting music that I like, not trash music. So that's another pet peeve. But there's probably way more pet peeves as well. Um, okay, so we're thinking lights. We're thinking lights. And whenever you find yourself in trouble, yeah, I would say the spiritual kind of trouble, you know, um, come back to the light, like come back to the seven homecomings, come back to visualizing light, particularly white light. If you're like, I don't know, having a nightmare, and if you start, if you get some experience of lucid dreaming, like go to the lights, right? Always generate the light, the brightness, the clarity, right? Um, Call in the beings that you need. Always ask for help, right? That's a golden rule of mine. Always ask for help. Like when you're in distress, even if you like, I don't know, run out of gas and you're on the side of the highway, sure, call someone and call in, your unseen beings for help. I want you to get always in the habit of that. Always, no matter what, just staying connected to the unseen beings around you who have committed to being of help, right? Um, so let's just get into our practice now, right? I want us to start actually first with developing your intention. Why are you practicing? Why are you here? You know, who do you want to help with this practice? Now, I want you next to actually consciously say to yourself, I'm choosing light. And, if you can't say it out loud as well, I am choosing the light. I am on the side of light. I choose the light. And I want you now to really actually start calling in your help, your being. So you can move to the seven homecomings practice as well. We're just calling in these beings of light around you. And just imagine that they're just gathering around you. Of course, if you're new to this practice, I just want you to imagine just like opening your awareness, like your awareness opens, you become aware of everything around you. And in the space of this awareness, asking for all of your guides, any being who's supporting you, helping you, loving you, to really begin to show up around you. And for me in my practice, I know that they're always there as well. But initially, I think many of us just have to like just go through this process of like opening this space up for ourselves when in fact the space is already there. So over time, the practice becomes either a simple turning our minds to the energy of these things around us, or the practice is just always staying connected to the energy of these beings, always feeling that guidance and protection. Right? And of course, this is, mostly what I call mind only magic. So this is mind only magic. So we're just, like we're using the power of consciousness to create the shift, for ourselves and for, others around us. So summoning all these beings, opening to all the beings around us who are helping. including, if you're moving the seven homecomings, especially the consciousness of the earth, the consciousness of plant, consciousness, consciousness of plants. It's just getting curious. Like, what is your experience right now? Like, what are you connecting to? What's coming up? I want you to particularly pay attention to the images, the visions, or whatever, the colors, maybe that you're sensing. Temperature around you, the quality of the energy, the light, the quality of light. All of these things, right, are parts are part of the data um, of who's around you or what's around you. Like, pay attention to everything, particularly like there's a temperature change, there's a light change, right? These are external things, but like even if you're able to turn attention inward, looking into physical sensations, what are the sensations in your body? Where do you feel tension? Where do you feel lightness? Where do you feel heaviness? Whatever it is, everything is data. Everything is data that helps to deepen the practice. And for me, my experience is just a lot of space. Space is like my key piece of data experience, right? This experience is just like open, fluidity, boundlessness. So that's like my primary piece of data that I'm leaning into this experience of being surrounded by beings who love me. And plus, but that experience has come out of many years of just struggling through trusting that I am being guided and protected. And once you let go of that aversion, that struggle with guidance, then the space opens up. And you're like, oh, okay, here we go. So I want to continue and do the first. So we're going to evoke the first of our mantras. Om Mila Sange Kino Soha. So Minla Sange, Medicine Buddha, Kino, to know, to think, but translating that word into what you need for Medicine Buddha. So what do you need right now? You need to be healed, you need to be seen, you need to be held. So depending on what you need, the mantra becomes uh, like evoking, begins to evoke the need that you're naming in this moment. So Om Mela Sangye Kino. So we're just gonna chant this just a few times together. And we'll begin. Om Mela Sangye Kino. So Kino Soha Om La Sange Kino Soha. So this mantra actually begins to invite and awaken the consciousness of Medicine Buddha, and it also invites all the deities and other energies associated with Medicine Buddha, part of Medicine Buddha's retinue. So all these healing energies are beginning to arise for you in your space, in your body. And so this is where we're going to actually stop for right now. And this is where this is the space we're going to explore in our first mantra, or in the first part of our main mantra, which is Teata Om. Teata, Bacon say, Maha Bacon say, Rasa Sumungate, Soha. So this is Medicine Buddha's main mantra. So in this space, so this is the time I want you to take, and we're going to do this in this space with the first part of the mantra. Then we'll offer our prayers. We will come back into the mantra. And then we will transition to Durga's mantra. All right. So again, as we move into this first part of the main mantra practice, just like sitting here, like sitting, lying, whatever you're doing, and just opening to the energy of light that is being radiated from your beings, of support around you. What we would call your benefactors, right? And we're doing nothing but just imagining, experiencing being held right now. So again, Teya Taon Bacon say Maha Bacon say Rasa Sumungate. So and let your hearts open here. Let your heart open, let your body open, let your mind open here. Because also what some of you are doing, or you're channeling right now, what probably a lot of us are doing. Channeling is opening, but it's also revving up vibrational energy, right? So you're kind of, how would I say this? Opening, elevating, lifting up into a higher experience of consciousness where the phenomenal world gets a little more transparent, um, less real and solid, and more fluid. And in that disruption of solidity, there's wisdom, clarity, messages, teaching that begins to, we would say, just download into the body and the mind, because you're not being blocked by the realness of phenomena, right? You're seeing phenomena as porous and lucid and fluid. And that's where you begin to connect to absolute, wisdoms. And I just channeled all of that as well, because I was just told to say that. Right? So this is a space we're exploring right now, opening, being held by protecting deities and beings, connecting to the consciousness of medicine Buddha, and how all of this is in line with healing, balancing, restoring, grounding, awakening. All right, so let's begin. O te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumunga te soa. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumunga te soa. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate sua. Te ataum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate sua. Te ataum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate sua. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza subungate zoa. Teata hum begenze, 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 Ma Begenze, Rasu Magade Soa, Deata, Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Rasu Magade Soa. Begenze, Begenze, Maha Begenze, Ramagatisua, Begenze, Begenze, Maha Begenze, Rasumagatisua, Begenze, Begenze, Maha Begenze, Rasumagatisua, Begenze, Begenze, Maha Begenze, Rasumagatisua, Begenze, Begenze, Ma 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 Begenze, Rasumagatisua. So turning our attention to our prayer requests, and as usual, again, practicing another intention of calling in again, or alerting, beings of light, um, that we're entering into space where we're offering our needs for ourselves and for others and asking them on our behalf to fulfill these needs, these wishes, these desires, only for the benefit of beings. Again, only for the benefits, not to get revenge, but for the benefit. May we all be free. May we all transcend suffering. Right? May we all get what we need to be well. Right? This is how we choose the light in prayer. Right? So calling in again all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors, the angels, all expressions of the Mother, and all expressions of the Father, right? All expressions of God, calling in all the elements, especially the earth element, and all beings who are aligned with the work of liberating all beings. We ask you to hear these prayer requests and to work on our behalf to fulfill the needs that we're offering in our requests. We're offering prayers for protection and healing. We're praying for peace and wisdom to sprout in every human heart. Offering prayers for Elle and her husband's upcoming cancer surgery. We're offering prayers for my friend Karen, who's her beloved mother Judy, who has entered the bardo on Friday, who entered the bardo on Friday. May she be held during this time of grief. Prayers that clarity comes to all. Offering prayers tonight for Angela, Patricia, and Heather, and all who are struggling with their health. Prayers for Mary, who is grieving the loss of her father. Gratitude for you all in this practice. Thank you to all practice leaders and teachers. Offering prayers for myself navigating the healthcare system. Prayers for all to receive health care and care. We're offering prayers for Rachel Patipada recovering from painful joint replacement. Offering prayers for Rishi in Nina's good health, for Bhumima and all that they do and hold. For Itzbeth breaking generational ties, for myself, my health and well-being, and my process of leveling up. For all beings who are suffering, for reconciliation, transformation, for ancestors and elders. Prayers for me, Lama Rod, working to support the three jewels. Offering prayer for our beautiful Mother Earth, for healing for her and all beings who depend on her. Offering prayers for my elder friend Irma, who is in great pain and going into surgery soon. Offering prayers for protection for my daughter, Luciana, for Malu, who was let go from her new job and faces a lot of uncertainty, for Piper Rose, healing with cancer. Offering prayers for my grandma, who has been bedridden for more than a week. Offering prayers for my friend, former Bob, who just had multiple strokes, can't walk without falling, and is trying to get his crops in the ground. We're offering prayers for friend C, who is experiencing mental health and disability issues, and F, who is going through a breakup and death of a family member. Offering prayers for myself, going through separation after 9 years. Offering prayers for Janine as she cares for elderly parents while providing services to disadvantaged seniors in her job and maintains her marriage. Offering prayer for Tyson's transition, my soulmate and best friend. Offering prayers for Alex and Laura. Offering prayers for Joyce, whose son is in the final stages of dying of cancer. Also for her son, Mark. I want to offer prayers for the safe transition and for a returning to the arms and the embrace of the mother for Swami Anjani, Swami, my lineage, offering prayers for Mike, for Patrick, for Jonathan passing through the bargain, and offering prayers for all beings to have access to the resources that they need to be well and happy and connected. Offering prayers for the disruption of all systems of violence, including war and patriarchy and ableism and all the systems that create harm for so many of us. We pray, we offer all the prayers that are unarticulated, that have not been spoken. We offer those prayers, and I lift those prayers from our hearts into this field of refuge with our benefactors and guides. May we all be free as quickly as possible. May we all attain enlightenment sooner than later. As we move back into the last part of the main mantra, just practicing offering the concerns, the anxiety, the worry into this field of unconditional care that we've cultivated and awakened. It's letting go and allowing all the beings around us to hold these needs and to trust them to work on our behalf to bring about what we so need to see for ourselves and for others. We're back into our mantra. O Jaya Taum Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasum Gatisu. Jaya Taum Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasum Gatisu. Jaya Taum Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasumungate Sura. Teatong Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasumungate Sura. Teatong Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasumungate Sura. Teatong Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razasumungate Sura. Beatam, Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Raza Subungati 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 Sura. Beatam, Begenze, sumagatisua. Te ata un begenze, begenze, ma begenze, asumagatisua. 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 Te ata un begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasusumu gatisua. Just letting out a breath. And you can begin by taking in a deep breath and then just releasing that breath. We're releasing the tension, the tightness, the anxiety, all the anxieties about the world, from climate anxiety to war anxiety, everything, releasing it in the out breath into this field of support around you. And not only are we releasing this tension or anxiety for ourselves, we can also imagine releasing the anxiety of all beings through this out breath. This is an excellent practice to build bodhicitta, the wish to benefit beings, the wish to free beings, through our own awakening. Now turning back to Durga's mantra now. And we can imagine as we begin working with the mantra that we can imagine breathing in and out of the heart center. Okay. And I want you to start thinking about um, the experience of being healed. Like, what is the experience of being healed for you? And what do you call being healed? Do you call it just balancing? Do you call it being grounded? The alleviation of pain? Whatever you call it, just reflect on the nature of healing. And that reflection begins to spark this blue light. And of course, blue is the color of medicine Buddha. Blue is also the color of Kali. But anyway, and that spark of yellow light just begins to radiate through the body. And you're just being kind of caressed, bathed, supported in this energy. So in my practice, I'm just sitting and just being, and imagine just being filled with blue light, basically. And this all we need to do is we go into the mantra again, Doom, Dugaya, Namaha. And just repeating it to yourself just a couple of times before we begin. Just to kind of get settled in the mantra. Doom, Dugaya, Namaha. Just letting this blue light radiate from you, flood you, whatever, wherever you go in the practice, just let yourself go there. But start with the blue light, and then from there, just go wherever the practice takes you. And we're gonna start just by chanting Om, and then we go into the mantra. Om Dum Daya Namah. 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 Duraye Namaha. Om Dum 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 Duraye Namaha. Another release. All right. Okay. So we're going to transition into our closing prayer, Shanta Davis prayer. You know? All right. It's popping up on the screen now. All right. We're almost there. All right. We're going to recite this 3 times. All right. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the may I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements, such as Earth, may I always support the life of all the balanced creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach until the ends of space. Okay, let me just look at the questions. I am in Atlanta. That was an easy question. I am in Atlanta. People think I am often living in the Bay Area. So before the pandemic, I spent a lot of time in the Bay Area, like teaching for EBMC and Spirit Rock. Um, with Reverend Angel and has her center, um, and a couple of different groups in the Bay Area. Anywho, yeah, I just spent a lot of time there. I can't. Okay. Um, let's see. Well, what do you suggest for folks who struggle with the visualization because they're and phantastic, don't see mental pictures? You don't have to see. You don't have to see mental pictures. Um, I don't necessarily um, all the time. I just sit in energy. I just connect to energy and I move energy around. I get lifted up in energy. Like so. Visualization is something that still a lot of people can't do. But my teacher said something really helpful to years ago to me, to other people, is that you just have to have a sense that something's happening. You just have to believe that something's happening. Like that's what we need. We don't have to have a full visualization. Okay. Um, do you think should we focus on one or more than one intention at a time? You can focus on several intentions. I mean, I think that's fine. As long as they're in line. Like ultimately, every intention is in this system of practice that I'm doing is about helping people, um, helping ourselves, helping other people. So you can have multiple intentions. Absolutely. Um, if your own relationship with our mother had difficulties, how can we connect with the mother archetype deities in a beneficial way? Well, it's we're not talking about our mothers. I mean, that's the first thing. It's not about your mother. You know, it's not about our fathers. Or whomever. Right? It's not about that. It's about our unwillingness to really connect to love and to care. And our difficult relationships with people is just this really convenient way that gets us distracted. It's not my relationship to my mother, it's my general distrust of submitting to a loving, nurturing, liberating energy. Um, so I mean, how do we work through that? I mean, it's just I don't believe you have to like necessarily go through the work of forgiving your mother to get to this archetypal energy. It has nothing to do. It's not about again. It's not about our mothers. It's right. It's about our distrust of love that was maybe exemplified and experienced in a particular relationship, right? But it's still an issue that I think shows up across different parts of our practice. Um, what you're having to do also is offer the wounding from your mother that you experienced from your mother. You have to offer space to that experience, which is what you do in Cho. Really, in the Cho practice, you're just offering space, emptiness back to emptiness. But when I connect to the mother, I'm just connecting to space. Like I'm connecting to love. I'm connecting to care that transcends the limitations of anything that I've experienced in the world of the relationships. The ultimate cosmic care that's always there, but it's going to have to hold the woundedness and the trauma from being hurt through, let's say conditional love. Right? So let's see. So when I'm chanting, meditating, my body is moving a lot, sometimes shaking, sometimes waves are moving through me. I wondered about your perspective on movement, that it feels involuntary and how to move through these experiences. I definitely notice it when I'm feeling intense emotions such as rage and grief. Thank you. Well, your energy, this is energy. So, like, you're training to hold the space for these currents of energy moving through you, right? And of course, you're gonna like buckle, right, when you're opening up these waves of energy and connecting to these energies because it's new, it's so much, right? Um, so this is natural. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, this is just a natural thing. So I think this is why movement practice is really great, because it helps this, well, this is one of the reasons asana practice um, came about, I would say yoga, but yoga began with just like natural movements that people found themselves in. And of course, it was systematized through different things. But anyway, so movement, right? I'm not saying that like the ultimate goal of the practice is just to sit and hold everything, but it is a fruition of advanced practice to just to begin to experience the boundlessness of what we think we are, that ultimately we're not trying to hold anything. Relatively, this is the language that we're using, right? Ultimately, we're not holding anything. There's nothing to hold. The energy that we're trying to hold is just an expression of our own consciousness. So inherently, it's already being held, but we're manifesting in multiple bodies at once. So physical body, mental body, energy body, right? And so we're having to train all these manifestations of our bodies to hold this energy, to let it pass through. Um, and again, pranayama, breath work, asana, other kinds of movement practices are really training. As my Swami talks about, it's like asana becomes one of the tools that deepens the capacity for us to hold Shakti, which is um, one kind of conscious energy that's aligned with the cosmic feminine principle of the universe. Yeah. Okay. Rage and grief are very strong energies. Again, holding that, feeling it, right? grounding that energy, moving that energy through breath and movement. And other rituals as well we can use. I think that's it. That is it. Great. Well, everyone, thank you. So again, retreats, New Hampshire in August, Natural Dharma Fellowship, and Southern Dharma retreat in December, and there may possibly be at least two more, or a couple, more than two, in-person gatherings as well. Maybe here in Atlanta, and maybe something else up in New England as well. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I'll see you all next Monday, and I think that's it. That's it for me. Thank you, everyone. Be well, be safe, take care of yourself, and just keep praying and keep practicing. And just keep all your bad music down to a minimum when you're in your car so it doesn't bother me. Okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. It's been real.